In this chapter, we'll consider two important social institutions, education and religion. We'll talk about the purpose of education and how it reproduces social class distinctions. And we'll also talk about common issues that the educational system faces. We'll also discuss how sociologists would view religion and how it's an organizing principle in the social order, and what kinds of current issues our religious institutions face. We'll start our overview of the institution of education, discussing how industrialization increases society's reliance on education, and also thinking about how other countries structure their educational system and how they're different from the United States system. In the beginning of U.S. history, education was not mandatory. It was not until 1918 that all states had what we call mandatory education laws, the general policy that is often called compulsory education. This policy change occurred as our communities moved from agrarian-based to industrialized. As less people made a living farming, education became regarded as being essential to the well-being of society. We live in what is called a credentialed society, meaning that we use diplomas and degrees to determine who's eligible for jobs, even though the degree does not specifically prepare you to do that particular kind of work. Some of you are sociology majors, but when you leave college and enter the workforce, you won't necessarily be practicing sociology. One of our primary purposes of education, when compulsory education became the norm in this country, was to Americanize newly arrived immigrant children. They were to be assimilated into society and to internalize the dominant values in our culture. As you can see from this bar graph, the number of youth graduating from high school and the number of young adults that graduate from college has been gradually increasing during the past century. Many of these young adults will graduate from community colleges, which are developed to serve local communities. About 36% of all college undergraduates are enrolled at community colleges. Some provide more technical training, but others are designed to get students through the first 2 years of college so they can then transfer to a university and complete a 4-year degree. Japanese students routinely outscore American high school students. In Japan, children that aspire to attend college will be enrolled in after-school programs that are designed to improve their academic scores. These after-school programs cost the parents about $3,000 a year. The children attend from the end of the school day through the early evening, and then have special hours of homework to complete before bedtime. For many years, only the top-scoring Japanese students were allowed to attend state-sponsored schools. However, with declining birth rates in the past several decades, admission standards have dropped, allowing more students into colleges. Education in the Soviet Union during the communist era expanded education to all children, not just the children of the elites. The political apparatus assured that socialist values were reinforced through the school curriculum, and school children were taught that capitalism was evil and communism was the salvation of the world. Every classroom was required to prominently display photographs of Lenin and Stalin. Each school followed the same state-prescribed curriculum, and all students in the same grade used the same textbooks. Schools stressed mathematics and the natural sciences. To prevent critical thinking, which might lead criticisms of communism, there are few courses in the social sciences. Russia's switch from communism to capitalism brought a change in culture, especially new ideas about profit, private property and personal freedom. This in turn meant that the educational system had to adjust to the country's challenging values and views of the world. Not only did photos of Lenin and Stalin come down, but also, for the first time, private, religious, and even foreign-run schools were allowed, and teachers were able to encourage students to think for themselves. The changes in the schools when Russia switched to capitalism brought difficult challenges to overcome. Tens of thousands of teachers who had been teaching students to memorize party-dictated political answers had to learn new methods of teaching. As the economy faltered during Russia's early transition to capitalism, school budgets dwindled. Some teachers went unpaid for months, and instead of money at one school, teachers were paid in toilet paper and vodka. Teachers are now paid regularly and in money, but the salaries are low. University professors average only $1,000 a month. Another contrasting school system comes out of Egypt, one of the industrializing nations. As a more agrarian society where people work the lands, school's not a high priority for all citizens. Many years ago, and I'm speaking in centuries ago, Egypt had one of the best, if not the best, learning systems for its people. Egypt excelled in astronomy, geography, geometry, mathematics, medicine, philosophy, and physics. And the world's largest library was at Alexandria. But today there are few qualified teachers, and classrooms are overcrowded. About a third of Egyptians are illiterate, and many women do not know how to read and write. The emphasis is on memorizing facts so that students can pass the national tests.